This is how you give your AI agents human-like memory. Let me introduce you to Zep. Zep is this really, really cool thing that you can integrate into your AI n8n agent. And essentially what it does is it builds a knowledge graph that kind of looks like this, right? And you can see me in the middle. And the more I talk to this agent, the more this knowledge graph builds out. For example, I love Game of Thrones, so that's there. I love Red Dead Redemption 2, that's built out over there. And I also live in London. So as you can see, the more I've spoken to this chat behind the scenes, agent has gone and built out this knowledge graph. So what does this all mean? And how does it compare to the existing memory that we already have with our AI agents in n8n? Well, simply put it this way. So we obviously have the memory like a RAG database, right? And what this RAG database is, you can upload documents to it, and then it's less like memory, but more like retrieval. And you can go and grab any information from those documents that you need, right? And then we also have stuff like simple memory in n8n. So let me show you what that looks like. And as we can see here with the simple memory, when I go and have a look at the logs, it stores our last few messages. However, after 5, 10, 15 messages, all of this storage kind of disappears, right? It loses the context of the conversation the longer you have a conversation with it. So this is where Zep comes in, right? So once I start to connect the Zep module up instead of the simple memory, you can see over here, it starts to store so much information about us, and it can retrieve it at any point. So I started this particular knowledge graph, let's say 2 months ago, I think, if I remember. I spoke to about Red Dead Redemption a long, long time ago. And now if I just go to our chat right over here, and now I'm using Zep, so let's just hit a quick refresh. Okay, we're back in business. So what is my favorite type of video games, right? And if I send it this, okay, so let's try out this Zep memory. I managed to fix it. So if I click, what is my favorite type of video games? Let's see, it will go through. The agent will decide and then respond. Awesome. So here's what the chat says, right? My favorite type of video games are single player games, FIFA and Red Dead Redemption 2. Do I want any tips, right? So I spoke about this maybe a month ago, and it still remembers that these are my favorite type of video game. And it also goes and builds further relations from the last time. So for example, if I switch back to here, right? I like to play single player FIFA career mode. You can see here it builds further relations like the summary. User enjoys single player FIFA games and was advised to dedicate a few hours on Sunday afternoon. So that's when it advised me when I asked what should I do this weekend. And Red Dead Redemption 2, it also advised me on that as well. And it further has more information about this stuff over here. So you can see Red Dead Redemption 2, and then it naturally made a connection to Arthur Morgan, who is a player in Red Dead Redemption 2, basically, just to not go any further about that video game, but that's exactly how it works. So it starts to make connections regarding different things. Also, like, say I live in London, right? So Hyde Park, which is a suggested activity location in London, and the AI suggested that to me. So then it starts to make all of these kind of memories exactly like a human would. Say your friend, you live in London and your friend lives in America, and then they say, hey, I'm coming to London, what should I go and do, right? And you would perhaps make a suggestion to go and visit Hyde Park because it's a beautiful park. You'd also remember that you made that suggestion. Therefore, it is creating memories of its own, kind of like a human would. So ultimately, Zep is a super, super powerful way to integrate memory, kind of like a human, into your own agents. Okay, so how exactly do you go and set up this Zep automation within n8n? And it is a really, really easy setup, because everything is kind of already inbuilt into n8n. So we have the first thing you need to do is log into Zep and then go and create a project. I've just called mine n8n project, super simple. And it is a demo project to explore the Zep functionality and show you guys how cool it is. Once you've gone and created a project, you then need to go and create a project key. You can just click add key and then create one. I already have one set up, so I'm not going to create another one. Sweet. Then we flick back to n8n. You put a when chat received message node. So let's put a trigger, and then we can put a on chat message trigger over here. We already have one, so I'm not going to do that. Then response node, we want to put using response node over here. And then we have this edit field. And in this edit field, I'm just going to put a session ID. And with this session ID, I'm just going to put my name. This is to make sure that we're always talking to the same agent. If you don't include this, you will continually make different users within your Zep chat. So for example, if I flick over to Zep over here, and if we go to users, you can see I have this one user here that I've been using. And if I go to n8n project, and if I click view graph, you can see I'm using the same graph to put all of this data in there. There is a lot of data. It looks kind of a bit overwhelming, but there is just so much data in there. This is just to make sure that you're using the same graph every single time. And that will come in handy later. So just call your session ID something. You can call it anything random. It doesn't really make a huge difference. And of course, if you're building this out in a production environment, you wouldn't be using a when chat message received. Each different user will have their own session ID, and you could just input that here instead. Sweet. Then we have an AI agent, and over here, we should just put a prompt, which is the user message. This could be just from this when chat received module over here. And then we just connect up a OpenAI module to it. I am currently using GPT-5 Mini to power this whole thing. That's the whole brainchild behind it. So you just set up a GPT-5 Mini chat model connection, and then we set up Zep. I'm hoping you would have probably set up an AI agent in n8n previous to this. So I'm not going in it with super detail. However, I have a bunch of videos on my channel of how to set up these different AI agents. So I'd highly recommend you look at those in case you haven't had a chance to do this before. Then we have memory. And this is where things go a little different to how we normally set up an AI agent. So if I click on Zep over here, I just need to go and connect our Zep account to our API account, right? So you click on this, you click create new credential, and you just paste your API key into the Zep. API key is this over here. Remember, we went through our project and we grabbed the project key. That's the API key you need to enter in. And once you're done with that, you just need to put the session ID, which was our session ID from previous, into the Zep node over here as well. This is just to make sure that we're continually using the same session ID. And lastly, we just want a respond to chat node right at the end. So then you just add the Zep memory in and you make these connections over here. And then you just set up a respond to chat module, and the message should just be the JSON output from this AI agent over here. So this should just be the output. So now let's actually see what Zep is doing under the hood to actually go and get all of this, memory stuff to work, and what that means for our agent. So I'm going to ask it what's some cool things to do in London, and let's take a look at exactly what it says. So what's some cool things to do in London, right? And it's going to go through, and the agent is going to get power. It's going to go through to ChatGPT, and let's have a look. So it gave an answer, nice. London's here with mixing some of our interests. So it's remembered some of my interests about football and FIFA, about gaming and VR arcades, etc. And it's given us a pretty cool answer regarding my preferences about what I've told it. Let's have a look at what's happening under the hood, right? So we have Zep over here. And Zep just goes and it gives ChatGPT all the information it has about me. Stuff I know and I like, and stuff that I dislike, and all the different relations it has about me. And it passes all of that over to ChatGPT. And what this means is it's going to use so many tokens. And the bigger your context graph gets, the more tokens it's going to use. And this is a major problem because it just makes your automations so much more expensive. And if you're planning to sell Zep automations, you're going to end up getting a huge bill. Ultimately, your client's going to end up getting a huge bill, which is going to not be a very good look on your agency. So I'm going to show you a solution on how to avoid that. But let's also just take a look at the number of tokens it actually used, right? So it used 3,235 tokens, which is a considerable amount just to answer a simple question. To avoid the abundance of context usage Zep normally uses, what we're going to do is build out this automation instead. And this is using the HTTP request, just normal API requests in n8n, to actually use Zep rather than the inbuilt n8n feature. We're going to call the APIs manually. And there are really, so we start the edit field, which is the session ID, which we've kept static. Again, if you're going to make this production, you need to replace the inbuilt chat. You need to pass a per user /session ID into the edit field dynamically, but we obviously don't have that because we're just using the inbuilt chat over here. Now that we're passing that in, this edit field does that, then we have two specific API calls that we make. And one is for context and one is for graph. So what context is it fetches the 10 most recent messages from Zep, which is the conversations we've had. So say you and I have had, I say something, then you say something back, then I say something, you say something back, that 10 times essentially. Most recent messages, and it formats that into human and AI pairs. So for example, say you say something, that would be your name, and then whatever you say, and then I say something, Yash, and then your name. Essentially, it's just AI, Yash, AI, Yash, AI, Yash. That makes sense. That's what the context does. And then we have a graph. So it runs a semantic search through the Zep graph using their API. A graph search over here. Then this will grab all the different relational fields that we have, similar to this side, but in a more concise format. We then go and format both of these pieces of data. This is done by using some code. I'm going to show you exactly what this should look like once I execute the whole workflow. It'll make a lot more sense. We then go and merge all the data together, and we pass all this data to an AI agent. This AI agent is going to get some information about what I've asked for and also the previous information it's retrieved from these two HTTP requests, API requests here. This AI will use all that information. It will then go and add some memory back into the system, the user messages and the system message, and then it will respond to us in the chat. So I'm just going to say, hey, what video games do I like? Right? Let's just ask you a super simple question. And I'm going to send this through. So let's send that through. Okay, so I asked it what type of video games do I like, and it replied, you like to play single player video games. Perhaps it's not the most amount of detail, and I could play around with this graph to increase the amount of detail it gives us. But ultimately, remember how I said these pieces of code clean up the data? This is because these APIs, they respond in this really messy format. You can't really understand what it's saying, right? So we have this piece of code, and essentially it turns the conversation into human, which is me, hello, and then it says how I can talk to you today. And I say, what do you know about me? And then essentially it's gone through the whole conversation about me that I had with Zep a while ago. Secondly, also we have the graph. Again, it gives information in this very messy format. We pass it through this code, and then as you can see, the facts are all here. Yash's preferred type of video games is being inquired about. Yash likes to play video games. I like to play single player video games. That's where it got the answer from. And then it goes and merges all of this together, and then it gives all this information to the AI agent, who then put an output of you like to play single player video games. It adds that memory into the system and also responds in the chat. That's how method 2 works. And if we compare the most vital point, how many tokens did we actually end up using? And you can see there's 107 tokens used versus like the 2,000 something ridiculous number of tokens we used using this automation over here. So that's it. That's how you can build out a Zep automation like this, either using the high token limit or the low token method. So that's it. That's how you can build a human-like memory type of agent using Zep in n8n. I've given you two methods. One uses a considerable amount of tokens, but might also give you more detailed responses. And one uses fewer tokens, but gives you less detailed responses. If you enjoyed this video, it'll help out a ton if you could interact with it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.